Hi, everybody.
Goodbye.
What?
Boop.
No!
I gave Ace one chance to intro a video, and look what she did.
You undercut me, man.
It's always my fault.
Anyway,
I was gonna say you need to take back control before you let me ruin your video.
so we're looking at a lot of my recent-ish art to some of my old art, and we're gonna be looking at all of the line art I've done because I want to get good at it. And in this video, I will be pretty much documenting my entire journey on it. So let's begin with what Mecca has called my mood board of failure.
Okay, don't kick it off with that because now I just sound like a bad husband.
Well, a lot.
I said that jokingly, and you're like, "Yes, that's what it is." Let's focus on
marketing.
you. Let's focus
Marketing.
on you enthusiastically saying that. Not Mecca said that I suck.
Well, to be fair, they're not bad art. It's just that the line art has issues. And Mecca's redlining it. This is gonna be great.
Until I have something to do, I am just gonna degrade your avatar.
My avatar is already sad enough because of the same line weight. I think that's like one of the recurring themes in most of my art shown on here.
I made you a sad clown vampire. Oh, fuck! I've been drawing all this on the same layer.
Buffoon.
I made you a sad clown vampire.
Yes.
Just like I did to every American president in a history book.
Who hasn't, honestly?
Yeah. So, like you said, we talked about, because it's easy to say. I feel uncomfortable zoomed into that one, actually.
Yeah, that's not my favorite. I'm so glad I changed my profile.
I mean, here's the thing. It's actually, and this is kind of a theme with a lot of your art. Like, there's the rule of it should be recognizable or it should look good from a distance. Like, thumbnail energy. A lot of your art has really strong thumbnail energy. Because one of the things that you'll focus on is some really nice, like, pastels, or you're very vibe heavy. Like, I can zoom out really far and I can see a wolf shape over here. I can see the two distinct colors of the avatars here. Like, this one especially I feel like has great thumbnail energy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when you zoom in, there are a few things that start to stand out. And again, like I said, none of this means bad art. Some of this stuff has actually really popped off on some different social medias, and I'm very proud of you for that.
Mm-hmm.
But like this one, you worked really hard on a pose, and there's a lot of fun foreshortening in this pose. But like I said, when you zoom in, you see some very rigid line weights.
Yeah.
Which, again, isn't necessarily bad.
I did kind of compensate it by differentiating the line color.
But that's the thing,
but
you try to compensate and cover up what you're doing wrong, which is, we've talked about, it's kind of like where style comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a bit of an Ace style to this, but it's very like it's that, and there's not as much breaking out. So yeah, the very super consistent line weight that is like the same everywhere.
Yeah.
And some other things that we can get into if you like shape language or like posing stuffs. But like this background over here, you line this, and I think your line weight did work very well. But one of the reasons it worked well is because it's not, like, it still has the same kind of issues here, the same jitteriness and everything.
Yeah.
But there's so much going on with it, the hatching, the understanding of value that you did, and the very fun traditional rendering that you did here.
Yeah, this looked like something I felt so proud of when I worked on it in college. Speaking of college, can we go on like the top right corner?
Was this a college one?
This was a college one. This was the one where I did where the class I did when I didn't do the sophomore review.
Gotcha. So, I mean, right? I mean, do you want me to critique it, or do you have things that you want to say? Because this is your thing.
I'm gonna be honest. I didn't know how to draw hands. There's like a whole lot of things just
Yeah, you can tell
not
because you
great.
didn't draw hands. you can tell.
It's
You can tell you didn't know how to draw hands because
Oh.
you didn't. And this is something, if you're gonna try to improve, this is a painful step you got to go through.
mhm.
And also, you should bully yourself, I think, but you shouldn't feel bad when you bully yourself.
Yeah.
Like, this was college.
Yes.
College is a thing. And it's the same thing if you look at even younger art.
Can I mention one thing really quick?
Yeah.
I am so better at backgrounds now than
Well,
back then.
well, so
Like-
one of the other things, like, when you're really young drawing art, you just don't know what you're doing. You have to accept that.
Yeah.
And when you're in college, depending on the class, depending on the time, the year, everything, time becomes one of your stressors. And you're like, time is always a struggle. Where you're doing freelance, this, that, the other thing. It's a lot. So, like, I know how much you want to refine, and that's one of your weaknesses. I would say is that you've talked about, like, I want my sketch to be perfect before I go into line art, which is not a bad thing, but it's not sustainable, I guess, is for lack of a better term. And like I said, backgrounds are a thing you do. You love to do details and everything. And here we just have these like scribbles of what I'm guessing is like a crowd.
Yep.
So, and this like stairway, this whole building interior that you have going on, like there's really little things that I think you would have done and you probably wanted to do, but just so much going on. Like you didn't erase your lettering guidelines.
No, I didn't.
So yeah, there's a lot of little things that I'm sure you could have done, would have done, and that's totally fine. But yeah, any of these could have been made better with some different line choices, I think. But this one I feel like isn't really a fair one to critique your line art on, because I feel like this is rough in a lot of ways. Like your background on the first panel is just like you're like I've compared a lot of your work to like children's book stuff, which isn't bad. Children's book art can be really great, but like this doesn't feel like you want it to be a children's book, but like the very like flat background stuff, the difference in style.
The same issue that I had with this one is kind of still there with the not varying the line weights.
Yeah. It's also one thing that Jeff is, again, I feel like there's other issues besides the line weight here. Like this one is like confidently your silly derpy little style. So choosing a line weight, a line art that could have complemented it could have made this cuter. Whether you wanted to go with super thin lines to like focus on the color more and less on the line art, or do more like variation to your line art.
Yeah. Oh dear God, there's a tangent there.
There's a lot of tangents. It's okay. It's okay. We're critiquing line art today.
But the part of the line art is just like there's a tangent there where now I'm just bothered.
Yeah. But that's kind of one of the things that we've talked about is like you like certain things in artwork, and funny enough, I don't think lining has ever been what you focused on. And so because of that, it became like you're very, okay, we got to get this done so I can go from sketch to coloring. And like any part of artwork, you need to be making choices, because whether you think you are or not, you're making choices in this.
Right.
So if you say, oh, how do most people, line chibi stuff? Editor, throw up some really cute chibi artwork and make a note on their line work. If you're trying to draw Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, you have the colors down well. You've got some of the, because Karina from Drawfia said this, the bad shape language and art style of Yu-Gi-Oh going on. But like, I don't think the line work looks like it. Whereas if you knew how they lined it and you could have duplicated it here, that would have been great. Which is one of the other things that you and I have talked about is like, I have tried to learn as many different art styles as I can. I'm not going to say I can duplicate any art style because I can't. but I don't think I'm constricted to any one thing that I do well. So things like that can really help up it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I think your line art journey will get out of here, saving recovery file. Yeah. Because yeah, like I said, there's good things going on here. You render stuff very well. You can add texture to things very efficiently. You know, you do play with effects very well sometimes when you do.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just a matter of some of these are things that we've talked about for artwork overall. You need to do explore, and keep bringing in and incorporating new things, making decisions constantly. You know, so you do your sketch, you're getting your composition, your pose decisions made. Doing your line art, what are you emphasizing? Doing your rendering, what values are you bringing in? What's the mood you're bringing in? This kind of stuff.
Right.
So what are your goals for this next week or two or whatever?
So for the next 2 weeks, I really want to get better at line weight variation.
So you're gonna be using like pressure sensitive pens and going like woo woo woo.
Yes.
Doing
As
that.
well as making more confident strokes.
Yes. So
Fast, confident strokes.
So let's talk about that. Just I know we're kind of going over a lot of time you want for this, but I think this would be a worthwhile thing for people to kind of think about. So when artists say confident strokes, so the line weight variation, like I said, that's going to be you have your sketch, and then when you go over it, you're saying, okay, I want heavier here, and then tapering out, small here, which you may not be able to do it all in one good stroke.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, don't be afraid to go in and erase, you know, because I feel like that's one of your things. You think you need to make a perfect stroke, and it just needs to be there, and that helps.
Right.
And especially because you have you are used to traditional art, and you use like ink and stuff, which is very hard to go back on. But we are working in digital now, so you know if you want to clean up your shape, you know, with an eraser, really easy, or with the selection tool, or even the transform tool, I think use it. But because I've watched you ink, so I can say this. One, you super push your pen down hard when you're making your decisions normally, I think.
I do, and I also really
You
slow
draw
down.
so slow because you're so focused and intimidated. If this is your little sketch circle, you're like, I need to perfectly follow that.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at it, yeah, technically you're staying on that line, but because you're so slow, because of, you know, nervousness and, you know, whatever restriction you're putting on yourself, that's a bad line.
Oh, yeah.
That's a bad line.
Yeah.
So if you can just kind of get into that faster stroke and maybe just saying, oh, I want to have that come out here more, and just whether it's using some of the tools that at our disposal. I mean, we're drawing in Clip Studio. If you have the vector layer on, you can literally grab a whole ass point and move it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's just going to be, you know, getting used to some of the techniques that maybe you haven't used before
Mm-hmm.
and incorporating them. And, yeah, just get confident, which the only way to get confident at any skill, do it.
Yep.
Hi.
We're back. It's been 2 weeks.
I didn't do shit.
Anyway,
Hey, so what'd you do this week?
I've been getting better at line art. So I've been practicing with like the line art drills.
Which, like
I've
I
been
said,
doing.
We got these from BAM Animation. Do you want to talk about what the goal of them was, or what you got out of these?
It was more it was more like a like when you do like a jog to like warm up your body. It was basically warming up my hand and making it like muscle memory for my line art practices. And
I like these ones. I'm just following. Scary. There it goes again.
wow. But there were a couple of days where I just fell off of practicing, and it showed when I was doing my little fan art for a moment.
Mhm.
So then it was worth me coming back
Yeah.
and doing that again. And it's gotten to the point where I've done this enough that I can quickly just knock it out before I start
That's good.
doing the line art.
That's one thing you said is that you almost said it like you thought it was a negative, but said that you started doing these before you did any of your drawings, and you're like, I feel like it's bad because we talk a lot about one of your issues is that you need to work on efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
But I think starting with a warm up is always a good thing. Like when you're doing physical activity, you always start with warming up. So, yeah. So you got, and a lot of these you did
I did
traditional
both
and
traditional and
practice.
digital up until like the final work piece.
Mhm.
So for day 1, I experimented more with the line weight variation. And like you can tell in both of these where I kind of pushed the line variation, but it wasn't pushed far enough.
Mhm.
Is what your critique was to me.
Yeah. So I mean, and one of the things that if we didn't throw up a lot of your old stuff, we talked about beginning this journey a little while back. But the things that you wanted to work on were, and you kind of talked to me like what I thought you could work on, because we've declared that I do decent line art. And the thing I brought, we always bring up is you have, the lack of confidence in your lines. You go a little slow. You can tell your strokes are slow because you have the little jitter, which you're also using digital tools to up that a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we were talking about, using line weight variations and not the exact same. Wow, you fought that one line so much.
I did.
Oh.
It was
So
it was rough on day 2.
Yeah, this is gonna be a little bit of a hot take. Because I'm all for. I prefer to see that over to doing like a little dot pet, pay in the line as we keep saying.
This
But do not stress. So, because this is a simple line art, relatively.
Yeah.
You're not doing a whole lot of cross hatching. This isn't complex geometry. So if we're talking about, this isn't so much of technically line art.
Can I interrupt and
Go-
say
yeah, no,
this
go-
is the day where I found out about the vector tools
Yes, which
on
if-
CSP, and I
if we
kind of
want,
dicked around with
we
them.
can make a video on some of the tools that can help line art in Clip Studio Paint and how to not overuse them and how to use them smartly. But I do think that talking about efficiency, there's a point where you need to be able to look at yourself and say, wow, that is one line, and I redrew that one line.
Yeah.
Because like it's an advantage to take advantage of in digital art. You can Control Z and make a better line.
Yep.
So sometimes, yes, take advantage of it. But if you are fighting, and because part of it is you have to look at it and say, am I drawing this line better, or am I really drawing the same exact line over
Right.
and over again?
And that was where I messed like point to point
Mhm.
on the vector lines, and it was really, really tedious working on
Yes.
this
Again,
particular one.
like I said, we can definitely talk about how to use them without stopping drawing. Because that's the thing, you want to make it as part of improving your drawing, I think. It is funny. I do think your line weight variation, at least in these earlier ones, are better in your traditional, because since it's a real felt pen or whatever, you can't go back and futz with it as much.
Yeah.
So you are forced to really play with it. See, I do
Okay.
that one there. I
This is-
think you use that one a little better.
No, this is day 3. This is where you told me that there wasn't any variation there. So
Well,
then I went back.
Yes, and you did have a whole thing on it. I think the other thing is that we talked about. So again, maybe this requires more of a tutorial video, but we talked about having line weight variation is the start of it. The next step is being conscious of your line weight variation. Are you using them to show what's closer to camera, where the light source is? Because that's the thing.
Yeah.
If you're anything in your art, you're choosing to put in there. It's one of the big differences between AI and people art. Is AI is just filling up the page with what it knows, whereas when we are drawing, video editing, whatever, you are putting things there. Whether you think about it or not, you're choosing a line will go there. There's going to be debris there, whatever. And so when you're trying to do a heavy line weight variation art style, it helps to have that symbolize something, whether it's light, depth, whatever.
Yeah, I think I kind of accomplished it with this fan art of Aya here.
Yeah. This is the first one where I think your digital has a little bit of better qualities than your traditional. Now, I do like your traditional line hatching. Also, I need to apologize. Ace gave me a pen drive because we're going to swap the files around. So if you're going to click,
Stop fidgeting!
Me. There's an object that I was given and I can't help but fidget it.
But I do that too sometimes,
Yeah,
so
it's-
I can't be too mad.
It's a very, very human thing that I'm futzing with here. But yeah, you also are trying to use your spot blacks more, which is like, I guess, a controversial whether that is part of line art or rendering. But I do like using, because it brings in that cartoon or comic book vibe. And it's just you making it, I feel like one of the things is always like making sure that the art process isn't just mindless steps and it's actually adding to your piece every time.
Yeah. So this one, I just chose one of your sketches.
Yeah, because I make great sketches. I love how
Arguably.
wow.
Anyway.
I do love how it captures the narrow and thickening line weight tool, just the little green highlight.
Oh, absolutely.
In a
It's
time
like
lapse,
magic.
you're just watching this little fairy just go.
I don't feel particularly proud of this one. Like, I feel like I could have done more when I mixed the spot blacks with the hatching.
Yeah. Again, it's something to think about. There's like two ways to try to use spot blacks, I feel like, and one of them is literally duplicating the main shape. So if you're spot blacking over a circle, it's the exact same circle kind of shrunk in, or making like a whole new shape. And if you look at like Spawn or some of the old like 90s Cartoon Network cartoons, you see those really insane black shapes on things.
Right.
And it's adding to it because you're not looking at just a duplicate of an existing shape. It's showing you like the wrinkles and how the light bounces off and everything. So when you're doing it on anatomy and things like that, I think you really have to consider what your art style is and how you want musculature to feel. Is it ropey? Is it geometric? You know, et cetera, et cetera. You kind of capture that on the back arm a little bit. You can kind of see where the bicep started.
Yeah.
And this is your magnum opus.
Not my magnum opus. I don't want to call it my magnum opus.
for
I don't.
of this arc, this is the mid-season finale, we'll call it, because it's the last one of this video.
Sure.
And because you in your hit cam stuff, the way you contributed a lot was doing background art. So I said, hey, what's gonna let you do a lot of line art and kind of tie into what you've done and what you've said that you like doing? Like, what if you do line art for a background? And you almost seemed like confused at that thought because it's almost like you didn't think of background art as like line arting.
I don't. I was basically trying to get more character art in better than just background art.
But
Yeah.
I think thinking of like inking a background is also maybe that's something that can like have a takeaway from it.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is like some of the cool stuff here is like the fun you literally did like your line drills on the tree and the bark, and that makes it really interesting to look at.
It just worked.
Yeah, no, it's great. Your fidgety lines on the bushes that aren't like you going back and forth on them, the little bits of stone texturing. No, I think that if this was for like a project, you could have there's a lot that you could have spent more time on and just kept pushing it. But this is one of those things where we kind of were like, we have to keep going.
Yeah. I also did like a blur effect at one point when working on this because I saw in one of my research that it helps with creating depth.
It can.
But in the end, it didn't look
Well, so-
right to me. So I
Part of that might just be because since you did stop at line art, again, those are effects
yeah.
that need to have a purpose. Just doing it for the sake of doing it is one thing, but then when you draw it and say this after effect is gonna really add to the depth or whatever of it, that's kind of different. So maybe if you had blurred just the stuff that was in the front or blur the stuff that's in the back, that's what would have really added to it instead of just blur the whole thing.
maybe
Like I say, it's
it's a kind of a slippery slope.
it's not slippery. It's just
But-
it's situational. There's no.
Yeah.
It's not. Whenever you blur your line art, it will have more depth. It's what, how, and why. And like I said, each piece is gonna have a different answer. I think that's one of the biggest things is that because before you would have thought of line art as it's finished, it's a step to finish the art. Now I think you're looking at it like you are making those more conscious decisions now. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And I will definitely keep going with this. Like, the journey just doesn't end
yes, that was
after this video.
that was another really big thing that we talked about last night was that you said you feel like you've learned, but you were almost mad at yourself because like I feel like I can be doing better, but you didn't like.
I didn't beat myself up
Yeah,
over it.
you were like I don't want to say I end it, which I think is one of the reasons why this video took so long to make. So you're like, this doesn't feel like where I want to end. This doesn't feel like where I want to end. And I was like, well, at some point we need to make the video.
Exactly.
But yes, because again, whether you're consciously doing the drills or just being aware as you're doing projects, yeah, you should always be thinking I can do better. You know, if I turn in a commission, I'm still going to look at it and say, next time when I work, if I do this kind of thing again, I want to try this. So,
Yeah.
you have a big closing thought. Do you feel like you achieved a goal? Do you?
I think I achieved it. I just wanna elevate it now.
That's fair. That's good.
So if you guys are interested in maybe seeing more of my own personal journey, I wouldn't be opposed to documenting more.
How can Ace get better? Make my wife improve.
But in the meantime, I will be linking all of the videos I have seen in my research in the description below, so that way you guys can also check out more artists.
Rattling them off, you said you did BAM animation. Are there any other ones that deserve a big boy call out or mention?
Winged Canvas, Shy Fox Art, Draw Like a Sir, and then Artsy Saw. I totally butchered the screen name. I do apologize.
I like the name Draws Like a Sir. That's fun. Okay. So, yeah. We'll see you guys next time. Get good, you scrubs.
Don't end it like that.
Ace got good, now you have to get good.
Be better.
Bye.
Bye.